Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Fantasy Football Expo podcast series. We are so excited. I'm going to call 2024 the year of the rookies because we have so many new people coming to the Expo this year, which makes me so excited because that means two things. One, they've heard about it, they've been to it somehow, some way, but they're coming here, they're coming back, and they're being a part of it. And another one of these people, which I found out is not a rookie as an attendee, but he is a rookie as an exhibitor. He is Steve Bradshaw from Fantasy Trading Room. Steve, thanks for coming. Welcome. I'm assuming you're a Bears fan, but tell everybody, who you are, where you're from, in the United States.
Yeah, you guessed it. I'm a Bears fan. I've been playing fantasy football for quite some time now. I know compared to the other ages of people that are going to be there, I'm probably on the younger side. I'm still in college right now.
Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, I've been playing for about 10-ish years now. I probably started playing when I was 9, 10, just casually getting into it with my friends. I kind of started out helping my dad in his work league. And that's kind of where it started. It was just something I was super obsessed with and fell in love with from then. And yeah, I had no desire to make content on it. I actually did do a YouTube channel that was more sports, highlights, just sports general content focus. But I never thought about creating fantasy specific content. It was something I kind of just obsessed over with my friends. We would spend so much time trading, all that good stuff. And then really, I was just super passionate about it. I just played for a long time. And I believe my senior year in high school, it was, you know how senior year is, you don't really have to do too much. So I found myself with a very easy schedule, at least for the first half of the year. Because I played baseball in high school as well. And that season is in the second half. So I had nothing to do first semester. And I was kind of, I still don't exactly know, I want to do something in sports media. I obviously don't have a legitimate job yet. But I was kind of just what do I want to do with all this time? And I kind of started looking and diving into fantasy football research during that free time, super in depth. And I was kind of it kind of just crossed my mind. I was well, since I'm spending all this time on fantasy football, why don't I, make content out of it and kind of share my findings with everyone else? Because, I'd say I'm a decently good fantasy football player. And at least my research, I want to share it with people, even if it's, you can be wrong, but as long as you have the reasoning to back it up,
right?
That's what people care about. So yeah, I kind of just started there, when I was 2 years ago now, and I started writing for my own site. It was called Optimal Fantasy Football, the worst WordPress site you've ever seen. One of my friends, and after then, I was so yeah, this is kind of, we'll talk about this later, but I'm terrible running the website, all that kind of stuff. I was only making the articles. And even then, they weren't that good, obviously, for starting out. But I would find some decent traction on social medias like Twitter, Facebook, Reddit. And I was reached out to by a company called Face Off Sports Network. And they were, so I would write for them. And they would they were my first, they'd pay a little bit of money depending on my articles. So they were my first true company
Real job.
in
Real
fantasy
money.
football. You know how it is. Right. But I was I really liked the company. I started there for a while. And then after then, I really actually started to improve. Some of my traction picked up. I had one of my first articles had I did a Dynasty rookie mock draft, and that blew up with 30,000 views, which was super great. I kind of kept building on that. And I was able to work my way into a writing position at Dynasty Nerds, which obviously is one of the bigger. Yeah, I know. Are they?
Awesome.
I assume they're going to be there this year. Yeah,
they will.
They were there last year. Yeah, they're a great company. I definitely don't do as much with them as I'd like, just because of how busy I've become now. But yeah, I wrote for them for a long time, and I kind of just would bounce back and forth between Dynasty Nerds. Recently, I also work with this company called the Right Way Sports Network. I do I kind of wanted to expand my horizon to NFL content as well. So I do that with them. It's just really starting off. I just worked for a few different companies that could provide me different things, help me grow, help me better my writing. And then, yeah, from there, I mean, that's kind of just I won't dive too far into the website yet. But
no. Yeah, we'll cut you off there. Let's go back to that 9 and 10 years old, because that's really young to be starting. And I get it. Your dad, you're kind of working with your dad, but you were into it. You understood the game well enough. You knew what the thing was about. So you must be pretty smart kid, because at 9 and 10, usually we hear, when we hear younger guys or ladies talk about, getting into fantasy, it's usually in their 12, 13-year-old, kind of thing. But 9, 10, man, that's impressive. So did you just kind of want to see what dad was doing, or did dad have you come and kind of help him? Or how did you and dad kind of get together when you're only 9, 10 years old to actually be that excited about fantasy football?
Well, I think it was kind of because I also was super into like collecting sports cards, like when I was
Okay,
super young
all right,
as
all right.
well.
That makes
So
sense.
I kind of knew like a lot of the players, knew like the statistics. So he kind of just like talk about it, because he's a big Bears fan as well, but he's not like super like he's in tap, but he doesn't know like all the new guys. You know how it is.
Yeah. So is dad coming to the expo? That's the question. Are you bringing dad?
He went last year. I don't know if he went. Well, he came with me. I don't. Okay. He kind of just like stopped by. I don't think. Yeah, he didn't have a ticket or anything, but he kind of just like popped around like the area. Okay. We actually really like Cleveland a lot. But yeah. I'll have to get him a ticket so he can check it out himself one of these years.
Yeah, definitely have him come by and check it out. He can hang out the booth with you for both days and all that kind of fun stuff. Cool beans. I mean, obviously when I started playing fantasy football, it was way long ago. So my dad and I used to like to watch football, but back then, well, there were dinosaurs on. It was just ugly. It's lots of things. But so let's talk about your transition. So 9, 10, you learn how to play. You talked about going into high school, start getting into the details, the stats, the analysis of it. Talk about how all of that then accumulates into what you have today, the Fantasy Trading Room, fftradingroom.com. Who'd you bring in? I saw you had some other people that have joined you. Looks like they're more on the technology side, probably, to get your site to where it is. Talk about what Fantasy Trading Room is about, why people should come see your site versus somebody else's.
Yeah, so I really kind of transitioned to the Fantasy Trading Room after about a few years, because it is very hard to have a full-time career or even a part-time career in the fantasy football business. Yeah. And what I kind of started to realize was there's obviously very few opportunities, and a lot of the sites, like, nothing against them, but a lot of them didn't want to, since they have real jobs, it's a lot different than, the age gap makes it a lot different. So they couldn't spend the time and like resources that like I could at the moment to like scale it. And that's something I totally understand. Like I work with them kind of like at a much smaller capacity, but I wanted to since I'm putting all that time and effort in, I've always loved the business side of things. I'm like currently like working in like communications and like marketing. So that's kind of like my strong suit. Okay. And yeah, so I love the business side of things, and I kind of just wanted to like build my own thing, because I felt like I picked up a lot. I kind of understood like where, things needed to be in order to like scale and continue developing. I felt like I had a pretty good grasp on that type of stuff. But yeah, the Fantasy Trading Room, it has been a work in progress for quite some time now. We started creating the site about over a year now, and we revamped it. So yeah, it's been in the works for about a year and 2 months now, but we just started like revamping it and posting content. I'd say like 4 or 5 months ago. So it's still a rather super new site. But yeah, the base of the Fantasy Trading Room is, as you alluded to earlier, it's not just me working on the site. I have my co-owner, Aman Bakshi, who is also, we both go to the University of Illinois. He's a computer science major. So he is one of the smartest guys I've ever met. And I kind of stole that business model idea from another company called BDGE. And it just seems like from a lot of the research I gathered, it's a very good idea to almost break up that business into, you have the content and marketing side, and then you almost have like the pure like technology side, because it's not talked about, but it's a super like great point in the business. And the best way I can put it is I kind of have like the vision and like tell him on like what we should do, and then he goes coach everything by himself. All that
right.
The stuff that's way over my head.
Happen, I always call it.
He makes the magic happen exactly. But he loves fantasy football too.
Cool.
We obviously have different.
And he's coming, I assume. He's your other attendee. There. Cool. Yeah, very cool.
I just handle most of he doesn't like being on like video and cameras much, so I just kind of handle all that good stuff for him.
Yeah, you got to have. Everybody has to have a role, and everybody's good at a role. That's what makes a great team. Very cool stuff. So you, like as you said, you came last year. Your dad even tagged along to a few things. Talk about your thoughts going for the first time. What were your expectations? What did they beat them? Were there things you felt could use improvement? Don't worry about the fact that I do it, because I'm always wanting to learn from others. If there's something I missed or overlooked, but how did you feel coming there as a newbie? And how did your weekend go for you last year?
Oh, it was great. Coming in, I was definitely super nervous. So I got the idea just because obviously there's like people in the community that have been here for like years on end, like 5+ years. Like that's honestly like, I've only been in the community for probably like 2-3-ish years. So I'm like on the newer end. Coming in like last year as well, I was maybe around for like a year. So my main goal is I wanted to like connect with people, meet more guys. And everyone I talked to was telling me about how great the expo was. So I was like, okay, well, that sounds like a blast. Like I obviously love Ohio. I've been there a few times. And just like the whole concept sounded super cool. So I decided to head down there. At first, it was definitely like last year I went by myself. It was definitely like kind of overwhelming and like intimidating, just because, for one, I didn't really know anyone there. I obviously met up with like a few guys from like Face Off were there. A lot of guys from Nerds were there. So that was great. But obviously, they're talking to people that, they know as well. That like I don't, just because they've been around longer and they don't get to like connect with them. Like this is like their one time a year. So they're spending time with them as well. And just like the age gap as well, obviously. I was probably like, it was definitely intimidating. But as the time went on, I met a bunch of new guys. It was great overall. There was quite a few people I connected with. I know, like notably, I remember Alex Caruso was there last year. And we like did some content together. And the reason I'm bringing him up because he's, on the younger side of things as well. Right. And we kind of were able to talk, connected well. That was a super great experience. D-Bro from Fantasy Pros, we talked, I believe, like the second day. We had like a great connection, and we've been in contact ever since. We just did like a YouTube like collab video together as well recently. So it was great. Just
Derek
like
Brown, right?
Yeah, Derek Brown. Yep. Yeah. Great guy. But just talking to a lot of people, it was great. I really enjoyed the event. I really honestly wouldn't say there was anything like that I would change. Really, the only thing like I wanted to change about the event was like coming with someone I knew. And that's obviously like just like having like one more person like that I can talk to,
beside you, being all by yourself, that could be a little like, especially your first time by yourself, you're like, I have nobody to turn to. But and that's what's great about this community, and I'm always proud to hear that the community, accepted you, chatted with you, because that's what they do. I mean, I'm so used to it, it doesn't even faze me anymore when people say like, oh yeah, I get it, but it's always good to hear that from the new folks that come in, because I know they're always a little nervous, like, oh, it's my first time, and oh my gosh, there's Marcus Grant from NFL.com and there's Mike Clay from ESPN, and they're like, but those people are just as cool as you and I. I mean, they're happy to chat with you, introduce, and a lot of times I've had people who, first time ever, like, hey, I got Mike Clay to come on my, my podcast. I got, Marcus Grant to come on my podcast, Bob Harris, whoever that, they've known about or looked up to, or, in the industry. And now they're friends, face to face. So it's super cool. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you're coming back as an exhibitor. So talk about you coming back as an exhibitor with your friend, your cohort here, and maybe your dad as well. What do you got planned at the booth? What should they, what are they going to see when they come to UR booth 33, the fantasy trading room? Talk about what you got going on at your booth then when people show up.
Yeah, so I mentioned before, my co-owner's like super in depth with the, computers, like the statistical side of things. So that's obviously like the main focus of our website. Like what makes us different is not only do we like to use models and specifics. I know everyone uses like stats, but I feel like not, and a lot of people use models as well, but obviously we have models and we like to break it down in a way that's like comprehensive and makes sense to you. We also are looking at like the film side of things as well. So not only do we kind of just like, does he go out of his way to like create these models and everything, but not stats aren't going to be 100% perfect. You kind of have to pass the eye test a lot of times as well. So that's where, we'll have like a baseline, it'll give you, a pure model, like, and spit out stats to form your own opinion. And then you can take that data however you want it, because obviously fantasy is very subjective. You're not going to see players the same way, and you're not going to follow those like model rankings one for one. That's kind of where I actually watch the film, dive into it, and kind of guide you through like what these numbers actually mean. So a few things that we kind of look at is, honestly, like, I know statistics aren't super like groundbreaking, but we feel like there's definitely room to improve in the space and like what sets are actually important. So we're just working on a model that obviously like better predicts fantasy points. We take into account an extremely large number of stats. Like, I'll read these out, for example, like passing stats. Not only do we look at like completions, passing yards, passing touchdowns, obviously, we like to look at stuff like EPA, passing, adjusting completion rate, deep attacks per COTAs allowed. And then we also like to look at like betting lines as well, because I think that's super telling for like team totals. Obviously, teams on better offenses, you're going to want a piece of those guys in like fantasy. And so we developed two unique metrics that kind of help separate like success from like fantasy and dynasty, called FTR points. It's a unique metric derived from quantitative and qualitative data, and it's enhanced through machine learning models, which is something that I know that's kind of, I don't even really get the whole like picture, but it's essentially just a super advanced way of chopping up all these numbers and spitting it back out to actually predict fantasy success with like a high rate that we've tested. And so like we'll go back, we'll use like these metrics, and then those will match up to like years past, like what actually happens. So we also have FTR dynasty points, and to specialized metric for dynasty leagues with proprietary metrics to project player value over time. Again, that's kind of in like the machine learning. And from what we've seen, that there's a lot of models, but Aman believes that machine learning is something that's super underrated and could be used in the fantasy space a lot more. Obviously, we kind of have like my expertise from being around in the space, consuming a lot of time. Like, I'd say one of our advantages is, since, we're in high school or college now, I have like time. I probably put in about 40 hours into fantasy football research and just like the company and site each week. So I'm able to just give like super like in-depth like projections of like what I think, and like the prop there is all the time that I spend on it.
Right. Sure.
And then, so our tools, we have a draft simulator that will be out. And essentially the main thing we think needs to be fixed, obviously there's a lot of draft simulators out there, but we really just don't like that the ADPs are just not super, the ADPs are very subjective. And we don't think that a lot of the draft simulators, I just don't love the ADP for a lot of them. I think that there's a better way to gather, high quality data. So we want to get people that are actually like putting like real money on the line where the stakes are higher, and then implement those data points into like a mock draft simulator, rather than ESPN where, for example, they take their ADP, but it's just like mock drafts that have no like real meaning, and it's like their ranks. So I think that's something that needs to be fixed. Obviously, we're working on a whole other bunch of stuff to, improve that. Like we have like a draft recap, and then a bunch of tools after the fact that's like still in the works that we'll give more details about at the expo. And also trade calculators on the rank, player analyzer, which is something we're super excited about. If you know Fantasy Pros, you know how they have like a matchup comparison tool. we're kind of going to be doing something like that because obviously Fantasy Pros is great, but there is a bunch of subjectivity in that as well because it's like their own team rankings. And I really think that that's like the only thing on the market. So we kind of want to take our own spin. I feel like there's a lot more rank based on the experts, which is great. But we kind of want to tailor ours to be a similar thing, but we want to make it so that it's based off our like machine learning as well. So we just give you as many stats as we feel are like predictive and like, plausible for fantasy football. We have like my opinion. So we have the expert side of things, but we also just have like the important stats. Like we'll tell you and show you like why these are predictive, why these are important. And then from there, you can really make your own decisions because at the end of the day, fantasy football is supposed to be fun. And you don't want to just listen to someone one for one, but like our goal is just to find the stats that are the most predictive, have me like kind of help guide you, but at the end of the day, show you why they're important, show that they've worked, and then you can make your own decision at the end of the day.
Gotcha. No, I love it. Love it. So everybody make sure you get to booth number 33, Fantasy Trading Room at the Fantasy Football Expo. Steve, thank you again for being a part of today's show. We look forward to seeing you, Dad, and your friend at the expo in August. Tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter, the website, everything that they need to follow the Fantasy Trading Room this summer before they get to see you in August.
Yeah, so you can follow the website. It's just fftradingroom.com. If you want to just look it up, just look up Fantasy Trading Room on Google. It'll be the first hit there as well. And then on Twitter, if you want to follow me personally, my Twitter is just at Steve Bradshaw FF. I kind of just like repost and I engage with the community a lot there, but I just repost like other articles I do. So I still do some work with companies like Nerds, like Face Off, TWSN, and all that content. And obviously Fantasy Trading content will just be like linked there if you want to check out my work in general. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to come by this year again.
Yeah, no, once again, thank you for being here. Thanks for coming last year, and thanks for coming again this year as an exhibitor. So once again, of course, I'm Bob Long, the Fantasy Football Expo. Make sure you get your tickets. Of course, when I click this button, you guys will see all the stuff for what you can follow the FF Expo on all of the different social media channels. Get your tickets. Folks, we're less than 2 months away from the event. Can you believe that? 2 months.
Yeah.
In fact, 2 months from today, it's over. So today's June 11th. Now, this may not get posted for about a week, but the day we're recording, we're 2 months away from the end, the last day of the event in August 11th. So everybody have a great week. Take care. God bless. We'll see you soon.